Drop Dead City falls into a category of documentary I think of as wonkish but gripping. Produced and directed by Peter Yost and Michael Rohatyn, the film is about the financial cataclysm that hit New York City in 1975 when the powers that be figured out that the city was $6 billion in debt. There was no money to pay anyone: firefighters, cops, teachers, sanitation workers. The city walked right up to the edge of bankruptcy. That's not an overstatement. Had New York City been anything but New York City, had it been a business, a family, or even another city, it likely would have declared bankruptcy. But after a prolonged logistical ideological war about what to do, the city was deemed too big to fail, even though it had failed, and to a shocking degree the film's title refers to the infamous New York Daily News headline that ran on October 30th, 1975, Ford to City, Drop Dead. President Gerald R. Ford never actually said those words, but the headline appeared after representatives of New York went to Washington to meet with the Ford administration. They asked for a federal bailout and were given the cold shoulder. There were complicated reasons for that. Ford's chief advisors, Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, were two of the reasons. But it was that headline, 50 years ago, that stamped New York's financial crisis with the imprimatur of legend. The reason I call Drop Dead City wonkish is that the film isn't a seamy urban cultural biography. It really is about the money. And the more that the movie follows the money, the more that it tells a story larger than New York, a story with direct application to today. In the mid to late 70s, when New York was sunk into the torpor of potential economic ruin, the city was fabled in another way. This was the period of CBGB and Summer of Sam, when New York was famously squalid and dangerous, when whole sections of it had a bombed-out vibe of neglect. Yet in all that crumbling concrete, there were stray weeds and flowers, the artists and thrill-seekers who grooved on the funk and the fear. It became part of the mythology of the 70s that New York City was a wreck, but a fabulous wreck, an exposed nerve of a city, a sordid nexus of desperation and creativity, where to exist there was to plug into the life force. Yet for too many people who weren't middle-class bohemians, the city had become hell. It was hell, and it was a life force. Just listen to Lou Reed's Dirty Boulevard. Drop Dead City shows us bits and pieces of that story, but it's really about the economic engine that was so rusted it had come to a standstill. And you can feel the malaise in the fluorescent bureaucratic tone of the film's archival footage, which is dominated by politicians and bankers and city officials. Seen now, this is a saga of bad ties, bad shirts, bad haircuts, bad sideburns, and bad lighting. The New York caught by the Sidney Lumet of Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon. And the real thing is even uglier. Yet that's part of the drama. The sight of all these government squares putting their earnest, bean-counting heads together to pull the city out of the abyss.